Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, dwyervip.com. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Also, for fantasy sports, for discounts at fanduel.com, the promo code is Dwyer777. Restrictions apply. Now, I'm going to scan down a little bit here. I'm wearing this shirt for a reason. Right? I'm going to scan down so you can see the shirt. This is actually a shirt with the number and name of the guy who's the best player, in my opinion, in baseball. His name is Mike Trout. Now, understand, Mike Trout is not going to win AL MVP. In fact, Mike Trout has only won AL MVP once in his career. I'm guessing this year they're going to give it to Mookie Betts, right? Okay, whatever. Mike's team didn't make the playoffs. But just understand, that's the way the world works. You have people out there who are dynamite. They're the best at what they do. And they get passed over for political reasons, right? Okay, that's the way it is. So, recently, I came across a piece by Frank Warren. Now, Frank is someone I hold in the highest esteem. I have a lot of praise for Frank Warren, right? He's a, boxing lifer. But Frank was saying that Vladimir Klitschko didn't deserve a shot at one of the heavyweight titles. You've got to be kidding me, folks. Right? You've got to be kidding me. I know we spend a lot of time here talking about other fighters in the heavyweight division, right? Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder, etc., right? But it's hard to imagine someone more deserving, someone who's more of a litmus test for the heavyweight title than the guy who held the belts, not belt, but belts, for several years. Right? The only reason Vladimir Klitschko didn't try to unify all of them for a period of years is because his brother, Vitaly Klitschko, right, held one of them, and the two guys promised their mother that they wouldn't fight. Right? So if anyone deserves a heavyweight title shot, it's Vladimir Klitschko. But that's not the way the world works. So we've been talking about a lot of other guys. In the news, you're hearing about the possibility of Adrian Broner against Ricky Burns, right? You're hearing that Mikey Garcia wants another title. To all three of those guys, let me just make an obvious point. Just like Mike Trout right now is the best in baseball, in my opinion, right? I understand an argument for Bryce Harper. Let's say the conversation really doesn't include too many other names, right? Understand at 140 pounds, guys, and I'm talking to Ricky Burns, Adrian Broner, Mikey Garcia, right? The man's name is Terrence Crawford. If you want to fight the best at 140 pounds, the conversation has to start with Terrence Crawford, doesn't it? Well, interestingly enough, Abel Sanchez, the trainer for Gennady Golovkin, was running off at the mouth the other day. He's a great trainer, one of boxing's best. And he was pointing out how he thought his fighter could beat Adonis Stevenson, one of the champs at 175 pounds, and Andre Ward, right, who's fighting Sergey Kovalev, right? In fact, Sanchez went further and said, look, I know Andre has talked about us ducking him, right? Which Sanchez claims isn't quite true. Apparently the timing was bad. Golovkin had signed to fight Lemieux and stuff like that. But Sanchez goes further and says, hey, Andre is going to have a tough fight against Sergey Kovalev. In fact, I think he loses that fight, right? That's Sanchez. For gamblers here, look, I don't have a clue who wins that fight, but I believe the play there is to take Kovalev by KO, hedged with Andre Ward by decision, right? If the fight makes it to the 10th, 11th, and 12th rounds, I think Andre Ward is going to bring home the decision. The key question for me is whether the fight makes it that far. I don't have the answers. In any event, what's interesting, and Abel Sanchez is running off at the mouth, is the fact that he seems to have skipped over the 168-pound division. He skipped over a guy who, quite frankly, I feel would give Golovkin all he could handle. In fact, might even give Golovkin quite the beating. And that's the best at 168 pounds. Folks, you know who I think that is. His name is James DeGale. So, if we're going to include the Mike Trouts of the world, the Terence Crawfords of the world, the best in boxing, the Vladimir Klitschko's of the world, if we're going to actually get past the politics and actually talk about the biggest challenges, what Golovkin needs to do is he needs to start referring to James DeGale. I got to tell you, if Golovkin's serious about going up to 175 pounds, I personally feel James DeGale might be able to clean out 175. Right? And he's the champ at 168. You know, that Badu Jack, James DeGale unification match that's supposed to take place at 168 pounds. Hey, just tell me when that fight's taking place so I could get my money down on James DeGale, MBE. His official title. Well, speaking of the best in boxing, real fights as opposed to hype fights. You have a fight coming up in a few weeks between one of the hardest punchers in the sport pound for pound. A personal favorite of mine. I'm Jamaican. This guy's Jamaican. When I talk with family members and longtime friends, this guy's name comes up in the conversation. He is the Axeman, Nicholas Walters. Right? We're here talking about Golovkin. I'm just telling you, if you're going to talk about the hardest punchers in boxing, right, this guy's name, Nicholas Walters, belongs on the list. But understand, he's one of the hardest punchers in boxing pound for pound. The challenge he's facing is one of the best fighters in the sport pound for pound, Vasyl Lomachenko. Right? Look, man, I was born in Kingston. I love Nicholas Walters, but this is not the family reunion part of the internet. This is the gambling part of the internet. Right? Nicholas Walters, to me, just isn't going to be able to cope with the lateral movement and timing of Vasyl Lomachenko. Right? I believe Vasyl Lomachenko wins this fight. I'll hedge the play with Walters by KO. Why? Walters, because of punching power. Right? Walters stopped Nonito Donaire. Walters always has a puncher's chance in any fight he's in. But if I had one bet to make in the fight, it would be on Vasyl Lomachenko. I expect him to win. I expect him to methodically take Walters apart. Let's talk about Walters for a second. Now, to me, Walters is front foot heavy. Right? He throws one of boxing's best left hooks to the body. He looks inverted to me. I don't have any information other than fight films, but it looks to me like his left might be his dominant hand. He's very strong. He's a very heavy puncher. He likes to counter you with very heavy body shots. A lot of Walters' attack is to the body. He's also excellent at uppercuts. In other words, he's working your body. You start to protect yourself to the body. He throws a punch that looks like it's to the body, only then he turns it and it's an uppercut, hitting you in the chin. I don't consider Walters' jab to be top-notch. I don't consider Walters' foot speed to be top-notch. I don't consider Walters to have much of a back foot game. Rather, Walters, to me, if we're going to get into psychological profiling here, he's a bit of a bully who muscles you into fighting his fight. He tries to crowd you. He tries not to give you time to think. He is, in the parlance of the trade, a pressure fighter. Now, he's had some problems making weight in the past. He hasn't fought in 2016. Now, there's a controversial fight involving a fighter you need to know. The fight was ruled a draw. There are many people in the world who believe Walters got robbed, that Walters dominated the fight, that Walters won 80 to 90% of the rounds. And it's his fight against a guy named Jason Sosa. That's a name you need to know. Now, the fight's interesting because Walters is unbeaten. So you look at an unbeaten fighter's record and you see a draw and you say, whoa, what happened here? You know, someone actually got a draw with Nicholas Walters? You know, in my opinion, Sosa actually earned the rounds he won. The fight is fascinating because Sosa stays close to the pocket and was able to get inside of Walters' punches. In other words, Sosa has a rabbit ear defense, but was able to turn in such a way that when Walters threw a punch from this side, Sosa has his hand inside of Walters' punch. Right? Sosa seemed to be more fluid than Walters, blocked a lot of Walters' shots, while he didn't have the punching power that Walters has. Right? He did land some very good counters in the fight. I thought Sosa won several of the rounds. We can debate whether or not the fight should have been a draw. Let's just say this was a fight that's intriguing because the big name was challenged. And the guy doing the challenging had a strategy, was prepared to deal with some of the tools that the big name brought in the ring. Now, here, let's pivot. Let's talk about foot speed. Understand, foot speed isn't just getting from here to there. Right? It's not how fast I race from here to there. I would argue foot speed is in also being able to move laterally and to do so with your construct. In other words, as I'm moving laterally, if the other guy throws a punch, I need to be prepared while I'm moving to block the punch. I need to be in a position where I can counter. In other words, I'm not just moving, I'm moving in a way where I'm still with my game. Right? Understand, when we say foot speed, we're talking about really the rate at which a guy's feet allow him to fight. In boxing, in my opinion, nobody moves laterally as well and counters you as well on the move as Olympic gold medalist Vasyl Lomachenko. I just believe he's going to move too well. He's going to be too fluid for Walters. In other words, they're going to face each other. Then Lomachenko's going to start to move. Then Walters is going to try to pivot and move. Right? I believe wherever Lomachenko's going, he's going to get there first. He's going to get his punch off first. He can lead or counter. Right? Because Sosa got inside. of Nicholas Walters' punches, I believe Lomachenko knows that Walters is a little bit wide with his shots and is going to be able to stay inside of Walters' punches, right? Block them from the inside out. And is going to have an Evander Holyfield type armbar to protect himself from Walters' uppercuts, right? I also believe Walters, who's a guy who likes to hit your body, needs for you to be close enough to him so he could lean forward and hit your body. I believe Lomachenko is high level, so he's going to lean forward. In other words, his body is going to be out the frame, right? He's not going to be lingering in the pocket, standing upright so you could hit his body. Now, Orlando Salido beat him, in part by body shots, right? Salido's coming forward, he's ducking his head down, he's fighting a Bernard Hopkins fight where he runs in throwing body shots, right? I believe Salido moves faster on his front foot than Nicholas Walters, right? Walters has an appropriate name, Axeman. He's like a lumberjack. I view Walters as a guy who's chopping down a tree, right? He's not on the move. He wants you to sprout roots in front of him so he can chop you down. I don't think he's going to know how to deal with Lomachenko's movement. Understand, guys who can move can go several rounds against Nicholas Walters. We know that. Because even the people who think Walters dominated Jason Sosa have to concede that Jason Sosa went the distance. So I'm expecting Lomachenko to keep this fight in the middle of the ring. In other words, Lomachenko needs to circle Nicholas Walters. Keep the flat-footed, heavy puncher resetting his feet. Every time you force a flat-footed fighter to reset his feet, you have a second there to get in and get out, right? A flat-footed guy, when he starts lifting his feet off the canvas, he loses leverage. So this is a must-watch fight. I agree the odds are a bit wide, right? The odds are a bit wide. If you're a gambler looking to make a profit, you might not be able to make a profit on the Lomachenko side of this fight. Just know I expect Lomachenko to win. The way to structure the bet, in my opinion, is to take Lomachenko to win. If you're looking for a profit, you might want to take Walters by KO with the idea that if Lomachenko wins, as I suspect, you break even. You live for another day, right? But if Walters wins by KO, which I don't see happening, but at these long odds, where Walters just straight up is greater than 3-1 underdog, right? If Walters wins by KO, you might be able to make a bit of a profit, right? But just be clear here. I expect Lomachenko to win this fight. I expect him to be far too fluid for Nicholas Walters, right? I'm expecting Walters to get his first loss right here. That's how I see the fight. Let me hear from you. I hope you leave your comments in the comment section to this video. Thanks for stopping by.